The air in the abandoned feed mill tastes of rust and old storms, the kind that never fully leave a place even decades after the last roof beam collapses under its own memory. Night presses against the jagged windows, black and heavy, like something alive trying to seep in. Dust rises in faint spirals with each footstep, drifting upward as though trying to escape the silence before falling back again in quiet surrender. This is where it begins, where it always begins, inside a place that feels like a wound left open too long. The first 100 words settle like a shiver. The hallway yawns in front of me, long and skeletal, its boards bowed like ribs that once held breath. Cold air clings to the skin of the room, thick with the metallic scent of forgotten machinery. Shadows drip from the rafters, pooling in corners like tar, silent and watching. Every sound echoes too loudly, my boot against gravel, the brittle shift of peeling paint, each one a reminder that I am alone here, and yet not alone at all. The darkness feels familiar, as though it recognizes me and waits. The mill was condemned in the late 90s, swallowed by weeds and local superstition, but somehow still standing. A monument to the kind of grief that freezes time. The wind slips through the holes in the siding, making the whole structure sigh and tremble. In that uneasy music, I hear something like breath, like memory reanimating itself just long enough to whisper. A lone chain hangs from the ceiling, swaying even though I haven't touched it. Its slow, mournful creak marks the rhythm of my heartbeat. Tap, tap, a funeral metronome. I shine my flashlight across the debris, splintered pallets, overturned crates, a blanket of dirt that seems too untouched, too deliberately undisturbed. The beam of light feels thin in the vast room, swallowed more than it illuminates. I should leave. Anyone with sense would. Yet there's an ache beneath my ribs, a pull older than the job itself, guiding me deeper into the dark. This mill was the last known place she was seen. 35 years ago, before the woods swallowed the roads, before the town built its ghosts into folklore, before time gave her absence a name. Cross, 17 years old, last smile still bright in the only photo they ever found. Everyone has forgotten by now, everyone but me. Silence floods the space, thick and almost intimate. It presses closer with each step, muffling the world beyond the cracked walls. I can feel the isolation tightening around me like a memory I've tried too long to ignore. Something warm flutters under my ribs, fear, grief, recognition. I can't tell them apart anymore. In the corner, half buried by a fallen beam, something gleams faintly. A small scrap of metal catching the light. And though I haven't reached it yet, my chest tightens as if I already know it's hers. The mill breathes again, so do I. Whether this place is welcoming me or warning me, I no longer care. Some ghosts call you back. Some won't let you leave. Tonight, I finally understand which kind she is. The object is smaller than my palm, but it feels heavier than the night itself. A locket, copper, tarnished, its hinges stiff with decades of silence. The chain has snapped, the metal etched with faint scratches like fingernail marks. I wipe off the dirt clinging to its face, and the engraving emerges slowly, like a bruise rising to the surface. AC, her initials. The ones I used to trace absent-mindedly in the margins of my case notes, long after we'd been told to stop looking. I lift it gently, dust drifting off in a soft cloud that sparkles under the flashlight. My fingertips tingle. Maybe it's the cold. Maybe it's something else, something like recognition or dread or both. For 35 years, the town had let its name fade from the local tongue, settling into that hush reserved for the unsolved, the uncomfortable, the quietly mourned. But the moment the locket touches my skin, everything resurfaces. Not just the disappearance, the consequences, the guilt, the questions that never stopped gnawing. The mill whispers around me, rafters creaking like voices trying to form words they lost long ago. I step back, breathing slow and careful, as though the object might shatter if the air shifts too suddenly. The locket flips open more easily than expected. Inside, the photograph is yellowed with age. Eyes dark, bright, unguarded, stare back through the paper grain. A single strand of her dark hair is pressed beside the photo, looped neatly as if preserved intentionally. She looks alive inside the locket, caught in a moment before fear, before disappearance, before headlines and dead ends. Something else catches my attention. A second compartment thinner, hidden beneath the backing. When I nudge it open, a folded scrap of paper unfurls like a sigh. Only 3 words are scribbled inside, the ink shaky but unmistakable. He was here. My breath stops. The room contracts around me, shadows leaning closer, the air thickening as though absorbing the truth of the message. I close my fist around the locket, the metal biting into my palm. He. Not she, not I. He. The others always insisted she ran away. That teenage restlessness swallowed her whole, that she chose her fate. But she had never said he before, or if she had, no one looked closely enough to hear it. I swallow against the rising chill in my throat. This locket shouldn't be here. It shouldn't exist after so many years, unless someone left it, recently. The boards behind me crack softly. I turn. Nothing moves. Yet the mill feels fuller now, as if someone slipped in with the dark. The silence hangs heavy, coiled, waiting. Is no longer missing. Her absence is speaking. And I am the only one still listening. There are cases that mark you, carving their initials into your bones so quietly you don't realize you've been claimed until it's far too late. Cross was mine. Long before I had a badge, long before her photograph hung above my desk with its fatting corners and unsmiling hope. I was 15 when she vanished. She sat behind me in algebra, tapping her pencil against her notebook in soft, syncopated rhythms. If I close my eyes, I can still hear it, light, persistent, almost musical. A sound that became unbearable after she disappeared. The sheriff at the time dismissed my questions. Let it lie, he told me. But I couldn't. Some people sleep with prayers on their lips. I slept with her name. Tonight, standing in the mill with the locket burning cold in my pocket, I feel the weight of every year since then pressing down on my spine. I tell myself this is duty, that reopening the cold case is part of the job, that any detective would react the same way. But that's a lie. I'm here because obsession has a familiar voice, and it speaks in silence. I can feel the presence of my younger self in this building. The boy who wandered through the woods with a flashlight that barely worked, convinced he'd find her. The one who woke in the night hearing her call for help, even though she never spoke to him outside school. The one who memorized her handwriting from the single note she passed him once. Thank you, just that. Not for what exactly, maybe for nothing at all. But the memory clings to me like dust. As I move deeper into the mill, the darkness becomes less frightening and more familiar. My flashlight flickers over fragments of machinery, dangling ropes, the rusted skeleton of a conveyor belt. Everything here feels like a metaphor I'm not ready to unravel. The locket thumps against my thigh with each step, reminding me I'm not here by accident. I came because I couldn't not come. I murmur into the dark, the name dissolving before it reaches the far walls. The echo that returns is softer, like a whisper not quite formed. My pulse stutters. I should call this in, I know that. Evidence belongs in a lab, not my pocket. But if I turn this over now, the case becomes procedure. Chain of custody, paperwork, committees and jurisdiction. And I'm not ready for the town to reclaim her yet, not after abandoning her for so long. No. This first belongs to me. Duty is supposed to anchor you, but obsession, It drifts, pulls, distorts. I can feel that distortion now in the way my hand trembles when I touch the locket again, in the way the shadows seem to bend toward me as though expecting confession. I think of my father, how he told me once that guilt is quieter than regret, but it lasts longer. I never understood what he meant until tonight. Standing where she once stood, holding what she once wore, I feel that guilt like a second spine, rigid and unyielding. Did I fail her? Or did I simply refuse to forget? My flashlight catches something carved into the far wall, faint, nearly lost beneath peeling paint. I approach slowly, heart thudding in uneven beats. It's a date. October 4, 1989. The day before she vanished. My breath falters. My vision blurs. For a moment, the mill feels like it's closing in, the ceiling lowering, the air thickening until I can barely draw breath. The day before, I whisper. Why would she carve this? What was she marking? What was she fearing? The answers coil in my mind like smoke, shapeless now, but with hints of form. My obsession feels justified, necessary, almost sacred. But with each step deeper into the shadows, I sense another truth. This case isn't pulling me in. I'm pulling the case into me. And somewhere in that shift, I realize the line between finding and losing myself is razor thin. Dawn barely touches the horizon when I pull into the gravel turnout behind the diner. Even from inside the car, I can see the warm yellow glow of the kitchen lights leaking through the screen door, soft, comforting, painfully ordinary. The kind of light never returned to. The kind of light I once associated with safety, before the case taught me how easily safety rots from the inside. I step out. The morning smells of diesel and wet dirt, the kind of scent that clings to rural Arkansas like a second skin. A figure wipes down one of the outdoor tables, deliberate, practiced motions. Lena Merrow, childhood friend of, the only person besides me who never stopped asking questions, even when the town begged her to. She sees me and pauses mid-swipe, her jaw tightening. Not hostile, just tired of hope. You found something, she says, though I haven't spoken. Her voice is low, frayed, like fabric worn thin by grief. I hesitate, not because I doubt her, but because speaking aloud feels like committing to a truth I'm not prepared to face. When I finally nod, her eyes shudder in a way that nearly undoes me. Inside the diner, the hum of the refrigerator and the faint crackle of bacon on the grill fill the silence. Lena pours coffee for both of us. Neither cup is touched. I always wondered if she left something, Lena whispers, something no one bothered to find. The weight of the locket in my pocket pulses like a heartbeat. I think she did, I answer. Lena's hand clenches around her mug. Her knuckles whiten, her eyes gleam with something between agony and relief. Then she wasn't running, she breathes, more to herself than to me. She wasn't running. A third voice breaks the fragile quiet. You shouldn't reopen this. I turn. Sheriff stands near the counter, one hand braced on the chipped formica, the other wrapped around a half-empty thermos. His hair is gray now, lines deeper, but the same guarded hesitation sits behind his eyes. He was a deputy back in '89, too young to lead the investigation, old enough to make mistakes no one wanted to name. He doesn't look at me. He looks at Lena, as if she's the fragile one, as if I'm the threat. Let the past stay buried, says. There's no good in digging it up. Lena laughs, soft, bitter. It buried itself. We never had a choice. The three of us stand in a triangle of tension. Lena holding on to memory with trembling courage, protecting something larger than truth. And me caught between the two, tethered to a girl who has been dead longer than she was alive. Every person in this room carries differently. Lena carries her like a sister, carries her like a warning, and I carry her like a shadow welded to my bones. Finally turns to me, eyes narrowing. You're not thinking clearly. This isn't just a case to you. He means it as an accusation. He's right. Maybe that's exactly why I have to finish it, I reply. The sheriff's jaw shifts. He looks old suddenly, older than grief, older than the silence he's been protecting for decades. You don't know what you're risking. But I do. I already feel the ground shifting, reality blurring. The line between story and mine is dissolving, as if the two have always been intertwined. And these people, Lena and they, aren't obstacles. They're mirrors. Every cold case has evidence. But this one has something colder. Relationships that never healed, truths that never surfaced, guilt that never slept. I step back into the morning light, the sun barely rising, the conversation unfinished. Yet one truth hangs in the air between us. Never disappeared alone. Every one of us went missing with her. The evidence room feels colder than usual, as though the air itself recoils from the boxes stacked along the shelves. Case file is in the far corner, box 14B, dusty, water-stained, its cardboard soft with age. I pull it down carefully, like lifting a casket lid. Inside, the contents are sparse. A few photographs, a torn page from her diary, a shoe with the sole half melted from the mill's old chemical runoff. Items that once felt meaningless, but now shimmer with significance in the wake of the locket's message. I spread them out on the desk. Photo 1. Standing beside the school gym, hair wind-tossed, smile bright but distracted, as if someone stood just outside the frame. The background trees seem darker than they should. I trace the edge of the photograph with my thumb, feeling the faint, shaky outline of a shadow I'd never noticed before. Photo 2. A group picture from the fall festival. She isn't smiling in this one. Her eyes seem to drift toward a figure in the far distance, blurred, unidentifiable. A man, a silhouette. My pulse stutters. Was he watching her? Or have I imagined it for so long that the image bends to my obsession? I pull out the diary fragment, a single loose page torn roughly from its spine. The writing is hurried, uneven. He keeps showing up. I don't know if I'm imagining it. Lena says I worry too much, but I can feel him watching. I don't want to be afraid. I don't want to disappear. The last line is underlined twice. Disappeared. Past tense. As if she already felt herself fatting. Beside it lies a map of the town, marked in red. The notes are old, scrawled by the original officers, false leads, circles around the mill. But something catches my eye for the first time. A small, almost invisible pencil mark near the creek, barely more than a dot. I lean closer. The marking matches the graphite shade of handwriting. A breeze rattles the vent overhead, stirring the papers. The edges rise, fluttering like restless wings. For a moment, the room seems to contract, the walls leaning in as though listening. I arrange the photos and diary fragment into a sequence. A pattern forms, not of events but emotions. Fear, then dread. Then something quieter, resignation. But there's more. The second compartment of the locket had held the message. He was here. Here meaning the mill. Here meaning that night. Here meaning with her. I examined the backing of the locket again under the magnifying lamp. Tiny scratches catch the light, parallel, tight, rhythmic. Not random, more like marks made in panic. I count them. 14. The same number as the box I pulled, 14B. coincidence, or a message buried in repetition. The room darkens as clouds blot out the afternoon sun. The fluorescent lights flicker. Suddenly I see it, not the photographs, not the diary, but the pattern in myself. The way I've returned to the mill year after year. The way her absence has shaped every choice, every fear. The way guilt masquerades as determination. I press my palms into the table, breathing through the rising tremor of understanding. These clues aren't leading me to her. They're leading me to me. I'm not just chasing her story. I'm recreating it, rewriting it, living inside its shadows. And that might be the most dangerous clue of all. Night again. I don't remember driving back to the mill, but here I am, standing in the same doorway where the darkness seemed to breathe. The wind tastes of rain. Leaves skitter across the concrete like fleeing insects. The locket hangs heavy around my neck now. I don't remember putting it on. My flashlight flickers. The shadows shift in ways that feel intentional. A feeling crawls under my skin, thin and cold like recognition. The whisper leaves me before thought does. And in the stillness, something creaks above me, a slow, deliberate sound like a footstep, or like memory descending. I climb the rusted staircase to the loft, each step groaning under my weight. The air grows colder with each rise, as if I'm ascending into a place untouched by time. At the top, the darkness parts just enough to reveal her. Or what I think is her. A silhouette. Small. Still. Head bowed. My throat tightens, my body goes rigid. No, I breathe. This can't be real. This can't be. The figure lifts its head. Eyes hollow, unfocused, stare into mine. Not alive. Not dead. Not anything human. My flashlight drops. The beam rolls wildly across the boards, revealing nothing but dust and emptiness. There is no figure. Never was. I grip the railing, breath shaking, stomach twisting. The shadows blur. My vision swims in and out of focus. I hear her voice. Soft. Close. Right behind me. You were here too. The words shatter through me like a blow. I whirl, heart pounding, but there's nothing except blackness and echoes. You're not real, I rasp. You're gone. You've been gone for 35 years. But the shadows pulse. The air presses in. And I realize the truth I've for decades. I wasn't just a bystander in her story. I was there the night she disappeared. Not as her protector. Not as her savior. As a witness. Terrified. Paralyzed. Frozen in place while she screamed. A memory floods in, violent, bright, undeniable. Running through the mill. A man chasing her. Me hiding in the rafters, knees shaking, breath clamped down inside my chest. Too afraid to help. Too afraid to speak. Too young to understand the cost of silence. I didn't forget. I buried it. Layer by layer, year by year, until obsession replaced guilt and investigation replaced truth. The shadows whisper again, overlapping. He was here. You were here. You left me. The world tilts. My knees buckle. The mill groans as though sharing in my collapse. I am both detective and culprit, not because I harmed her, but because I didn't save her. Because I told no one what I saw. Because I let her story become a case instead of a confession. And now the ghosts, real or imagined, won't let me leave until I finally admit the truth. The case wasn't cold. I was. Morning creeps in like a reluctant apology, soft light filtering through the broken slats of the mill. My clothes are coated in dust. My hands tremble, not from fear, but from something quieter, deeper. Acceptance, maybe, or the echo of a memory finally unburied. Outside, I hear distant voices, deputies, radio chatter, the hum of arriving patrol cars. Someone must have followed me, or maybe I called them without realizing. The night is a blur, a fractured mirror of revelation and madness. I stand slowly, legs stiff, throat raw. The mill looks different in daylight, less haunted, more broken. But the truth I unearthed hasn't softened with the sun. I step outside as approaches. He studies my face, something like resignation tightening his features. "You look like you've seen a ghost," he mutters. I don't answer. Not because I don't know what to say, but because there are no words that can bridge 35 years of silence. Lena arrives next, breathless, worry etched into every line of her face. She wants answers. She deserves them. But all I can offer is a small, weary shake of my head. Inside the mill, deputies comb through the debris. They find the locket on the dirt floor. I must have dropped it during my collapse. They bag it carefully, label it, process it. To them, it's evidence. To me, it's a eulogy. Speaks softly beside me. "We'll handle it from here." Handle. As if truth can be handled. As if guilt can be filed away. I close my eyes. Behind my eyelids, the truth presses sharp and unyielding. I was there. I did nothing. And nothing is often worse than harm. Rests a hand on my shoulder. "You did your best." I almost laugh. My best is a ghost town. The deputies eventually file out with their boxes and bags. The mill returns to silence, not accusing, not forgiving, simply quiet. Lena steps closer, her voice barely above a whisper. "What did you see last night?" I search for words that won't destroy her. None come. "I remembered," I finally say. "I remembered too late." She doesn't ask more. Maybe she sees the truth in my eyes. Maybe she already knew her friend died alone. Maybe she senses that some stories end not with justice but with confession. The wind shifts, leaves rustle. A distant crow calls out, its cry stretching thin across the woods. I walk toward my car. Not because the case is closed, but because something inside me finally is. The truth didn't free me. It didn't absolve me. It didn't even hurt as much as I expected. It simply settled. Like dust on an old photograph. Quiet, unremarkable, inescapable. As I drive away, the mill shrinks in the mirror. Its silhouette fades into the trees, becoming just another shadow among many. But the silence inside me remains. Heavy, lingering, permanent. The case may be solved now. The man responsible already dead for decades. The evidence finally pointing to his forgotten cruelty. But peace. Peace is something the truth can't give me. Not when I was part of its darkness. Not when I let a girl slip into history without a scream to save her. In the end, justice came. But the cost was memory. And memory is the kind of ghost that never leaves. I drive on, the road stretching endlessly ahead. Behind me, the past exhales one final whisper. You were here. And I will hear it until the last quiet hour of my life.